Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin back again. And today we have another special guest for you. We've got Nicole Ortega from her YouTube channel, where she helps her audience, achieve their desires through what she calls an enlightened actualization of their being.
Yep, her channel's called Nicole Ortega.
Yeah.
And it focuses, from what I've gathered so far, on manifestation, how to get the life you want type thing.
Yeah.
But this is exciting, and we should just kind of see what she has to say.
All right, we won't keep you waiting. Let's get into it. All right, Nicky, Nicole, thanks so much for being on the show. We've already given you an intro to get into this, but I think for our audience, for those who are new to you and your content, I always like to begin with kind of the backstory, because usually anyone who's involved with spirituality or this type of stuff that you got going on, they got a type of a backstory. How did you get to where you are today on YouTube, influencing, helping people, find and manifesting and stuff like that? How did it all begin?
Yeah. Oh man. I'm like, well, when I was born, okay, yeah, coming out of my mom's womb, I was like, wow, I'm gonna be a huge YouTube success. Just kidding. So, I don't know, when I was 18, my life was like crashing down, actually. I was like really depressed. I was an addict. I mean, like, not mad or anything. I'm just like, maybe just, I think we all have some sort of addictions. So I was coping with life and suffering with just like, or whatever I could attach to. So I think Buddhism would call like grasping or clinging, which is the root of all suffering or whatever. So that brought me into, I want to be free of this like never ending chase for more and the next high and the next thing. And yeah, but suddenly one day it was just like, I just couldn't believe it anymore. I don't know how to explain it. It's like just an a realization like, oh, there's nothing to like seek. There's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing that is going to fulfill me. It's just like a play of whatever I want to create. But then I tried creating and I sucked at creating. So I'm like, okay, it's not just about the awakening. I need to integrate this. And then I had many wounds on unworthiness and lack, and I had to go into family stuff. And I read the Akashic records and past lives. So past life shit. I don't know if I'm giving you a story. I'm just like all over the place.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Don't go by my face. Sometimes when I'm paying attention, I almost look grouchy sometimes. I am enthralled.
Cool. I'm glad you guys are thrilled. I'm thrilled. So then I was like, whoa, okay, I can see through this. I can see through the unreality of things and how like the chase for more is never going to be fulfilling, but I still want to create stuff. So then I think that's why my approach has been into quote unquote self-realization, enlightenment, awakening, or what I call like emptying the mind and knowing you're not your thoughts and kind of being in a neutral equanimity, and also manifesting the world consciousness, because I'm like, okay, you can do that, but then it's also fun to play the game without the attachment with the things, without the it's awesome. I'd rather cry in a mansion, right? Like kind of see it like that, right? Yeah. So but what if you don't have to cry and you can still keep the mansion, kind of thing? So that's my approach, if you get the metaphor, like create, have fun, make money, but don't be attached to things. It's not going to be all. Just enjoy the what is and the tribulations. I mean, like I traveled for like 4 or 5 years all over like Europe, the US, by myself. I had like no money, just like creating as I go. And then built myself by sharing my story, and then people started asking me like, how do I do that too? How do I become free from suffering? How do I manifest? How do I travel? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but I started getting results by conversations and people shifting just by my energy, and then it became like a business, and now it's a success. So
yeah,
there's more to it.
Sometimes it seems like you're like, if you are the type of person that ends up a leader or a role like that, sometimes life leads you that way, and you're almost like elected to be that way. Like you may have found that people were asking you your advice, right? Like sort of seeking what you had to say, and you're like, all right, well then, okay, this is how I did it.
I'll make a thing of it.
Yeah. It kind of like just happened by itself, yeah. Although I always like to talk to like self-expression, but it was like asked of me, like kind of thing.
Yeah. Better that way than somebody that's like going around telling people stuff that they don't want to hear.
Right,
it's better
for sure.
You
Yeah,
were
yeah. But I
talking a
mean,
lot about like the creative aspect of things there. Is that like kind of like a starting or a building block at least where people like maybe I don't know if you tell them that or based upon your experience is just testing your creative capacity, is that kind of like a way to kind of find yourself into the right path maybe?
I mean, I love how you rephrase it in a way that it's perhaps, more quote unquote logical. Yeah, I found the path of manifestation good for awakening or self-realization or enlightenment or whatever. Good because every time I tried to create something, I met my own limiting beliefs, my own unworthiness, my own like, how I'm not gonna make this happen. Like, who am I to do this? Or like, so who am I came up. So I'm like, oh wait, who am I? What am I? What am I? So the whole Ramana Maharshi thing. So I like to mix both, and then also creating, and then finding not unfulfilling on my creations. So I think they're both really good to be intertwined. Um, and people get
Yeah.
inspired because they don't feel like they have to choose to like, oh, I'm just gonna be a monk, or I just
Mm,
gonna create and hoard and greed. And I'm like, no, just it's a part of like discovering the passion, like what makes me feel joy in the moment, what makes you
mhm,
feel joy in the moment. And then
mhm,
the fact that you can also get highly paid for your passion, for
mm.
your joy, that's like, okay, cool. I feel that's the sweet spot of enjoying life on earth, man. Besides like food and sex and
Yeah. Do you find that your brand of teaching is actually really effective based on the time that we live in? Like, because I was in preparation for this. I was watching some of your stuff, and sometimes you get to the point. It's like this is the point, and you'll give pretty straightforward direction to how you can start getting into manifesting. Do you find? Do you think it's possible that that's more effective because of the day and age we live in? Because the people that have gone before us have sort of provided a fertile grounds for this type of teaching. Is that an element of this?
I would say it could be, although for me that didn't work. For me, it was like really hard. Like all those law of attraction, manifestation, never got it. Like I tried everything and it didn't work.
Mm,
So that's why I needed to go. I was like, if I want to create the life I want, I need to go through enlightenment because
mm,
my karma was too fucked up.
mm. Yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are like, well, sign me up for some of that. And they might be wondering, like, what enlightenment is. We have a lot of guests on here who have different varying perspectives and stuff like that. So I'm curious about yours on enlightenment, what you
Mm.
actually think it's all about or what you've experienced and embodied. What is enlightenment for you?
I love that question. It's not believing in my own stories. As simple as that. It's kind of like having a baby consciousness, being like a baby, like you're so amazed at everything, but also having clear direction at the same time. It's like a wise baby. Like you can be
A
an
wise
80-year
baby.
old. Yeah, yeah, I would say enlightenment. It's a wise baby. You can be an 80-year-old, like grounded in like wisdom, but then you can just be like, oh, a butterfly, oh, this. Because there's no fear of dying, there's no doubt, there's no anxiety, there's no like sense of accomplishment that you can relax in whatever it's happening without being like, I'm gonna it's a fear of death actually. I feel like all the fears led to that.
That's so enticing. I bet
Does that
for
work?
for so many of it, it's enticing to me. The idea that at least even a reduction. If somebody could suggest that there was a way I could reduce my anxiety, that would be appealing. But the idea that you could actually get rid of that and move forward without any anxiety, that sounds appealing to me. I don't know. It's an exciting message.
Yeah.
Thanks.
In terms of like your spiritual experiences, because I know it says right on your page, modern day mystic, and that's kind of some of the words we use around here too. Um, One is for those who are like, what the heck is a modern day mystic? Maybe you could explain a little bit about like what that is, and if there's a most memorable experience out there where you really found like you had a spiritual experience, like in either an epiphany moment or like something supernatural that happened to you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I would love to hear some of that.
beautiful. Well, kind of like everything in my world right now functions by synchronicities. Like I don't plan anything, but um what people call like like cities, like supernatural abilities, where it's like, oh, this girl can telekinesis. Okay, no, I wish. But but it has happened like way more telepathic messages, way more just like thinking about something and instantly happens. There's no what I'm trying to say is there's no resistance, and the field arranges miraculously by itself to perform the highest possibility for me and also the people that are supposed to co-create that with me. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear
yeah, it does actually.
you.
It sounds like I don't know. I could be wrong. Sometimes I'm really in left field with my perception of things. But is there an element of this that's getting in line with something that is, you know, is there a feel to this that you have to get the hang of? Is it a matter of sort of putting logic on the back burner and getting into a resonance with things? You know, are you guided by your sense of things to guide you towards the people that are going to be good co-creators with you, or is is that even making any sense?
Yes, yes, I love it. You're just like, is this what you mean? Yeah, I meant like it's more harmonizing. There's more cooperation. There's more co-creation. There's more like unity kind of consciousness. I would define it as it's the ability to stop resisting and the ability to stop believing on the story. Like
How do
somebody
we
can be
do
like,
it? How does a big resistor like me stop resisting so darn much? How?
it's kind of like just it's like a pop. It's like once you see through it, it's like you can somebody can be like, hey, you can play with this Barbie, or like, yesterday I saw that my ex-girlfriend like text me and was like all mad at me, and then I felt so grieved because I lost her. Like you cannot believe in the story. Like that happens, and you're like, wait, what is really my ex-girlfriend? What is really me? What is really who is the one that's experiencing the sensation? Is the sensation happening through me? Is it really sadness? Is this like an aversion? Is this a lesson? Is it so all the questions just come up right away, and then boom, I cannot see the story, and then I'm just like, oh, and then like the person shifts into a different configuration that matches my field, or it disappears. I mean, it doesn't die. It just moves into a different reality with co-creators that are more aligned with that version of that game.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Cool.
Over the years, we've or over the time that we've been doing this, we've encountered a lot of people such as yourself that are, extraordinary. And I usually bring up something to do with like, what the heck do you got to do to get over trauma? Because, I know how to get myself in a decent place emotionally. I know how to, what things to avoid and what things to go to that sort of make me happy. But ultimately, if you were to speak on trauma, somebody that's got like a base level, something that's just keeping them from those good vibes, keeping them from getting over themselves and stepping into being able to manifest and all that stuff, what would you say to somebody like that? Somebody that's like sort of toiling, struggling, keeps returning to the more negative side of things.
Mm. Can beat the mind with the mind.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of riddles, but yeah, I can explain some shit too. Yeah.
Sure. If you could appease my over rationalizing mind.
You can get the mind with the mind. I'm like, try to catch a dog's tail with the dog. Like try to see beyond the fabrication because I believe that many people with trauma, they get stuck with the one that's traumatized. It happened to me for many years. I'm like, my story is that I'm the traumatized girl that's a healer and I'm going to heal my trauma on people. But then I'm projecting a reality where people are traumatized for me to heal them. Why would I do that? Better just
Right.
be like, see everybody as whole and complete. And then if something shows up, speak to that or reflect to that and see how they can snap out of it. So that's why sometimes I'm really radical and I'm can be really like assertive. Some people call me like the enlightened dominatrix. Um,
Yeah. Well,
Good.
it's got to be tough though, because you probably come into a little bit of resistance with people who, because there are people who kind of their vibration is lower or they're negative people, and there's got to be some type of friction or resistance when you meet up with these people when you come.
Yeah. What happens there?
Yeah, like what happens when those two realities meet each other?
ooh, yeah, it can be feisty. But when I speak back in feistiness, and I don't speak to their soul, like I see their whole and completeness, but I see like a little program thingy being like "Grr," and gracious, and so I become that. Like in that moment, I generously shift into that thing. so they can see themselves through me. But if they don't see that in themselves, they're going to be like, no, it's you and it's your shadow. I'm like, no, I'm just like reflecting this thing. And I'm also like willing to see if any debris of anything comes out on me, and I would admit it. But usually it's that. It's just like mirroring back that anger. And before, I used to believe that it wasn't, I was like, no, I just have to do it with so much love. Got destroyed. And like, can I do that with the programs?
Oh, it's like it is so beautiful to think of being free. I think at one point I was sort of covertly accused of trying to control things, like control the narrative or something like that. But the idea of being graceful and fully free and fully authentic is appealing. But I do think that somewhere in my life, at least, I don't know how it is for everybody. I imagine for many people, you get taught that you're actually not free to be fluid and expressive somewhere along the line, and sometimes it's like, well, as a rebellion, I'm going to be overly bombastic then. But just the straight up truth and freedom to step into the type of life that you're talking about, I wonder sometimes, how do you get over that final thing? And like you said, you gave some examples. Sometimes you'll try to reflect it back to them so that they can see what they're putting out there and all these different things. But it does sound appealing. It sounds like who wouldn't want to be just happier and freer and able to gain the life that they want.
Well, in terms of manifestation, because a big portion of your channel revolves around manifesting, and nowadays there's like so much content on the internet about the law of attraction, manifestation, stuff like that. From your experience, what do you think? What is the thing that people get most wrong about manifestation?
Doing it from the reality of the program, doing it from being the person. So my alternative is doing it without the doer, but also not bypassing the fact that you don't have to do anything. It's really like, it's subtle to explain. It's like you have to do, but you don't do, but you relax, but you call it in, but at the same time you see through it and you just call in the heart's desire. Because what I see is that everybody has a unique frequency that we already agreed upon that we can excel. This is the highest potential that we have in this incarnation, and everybody has that. And when I help them tune and tap into that, then they realize all these other things that they were seeking and wanting to manifest were just unpurified ego desires. So then I'm like, oh, okay, it's easy when I tap into what's my true heart's desire. And then that just happens by itself, because the heart's desire of everybody is tuned in with everybody's highest reality. So the whole collective is like, fuck yeah, I'll support you because it benefits me too. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, people like so for like typical people who like, I'm just trying to think of like the most baseline, like your average person who's doing their daily tasks. They go to their 9 to 5. They're living their life. They want something more. They're trying to dream big, but they feel trapped kind of maybe within their world. What is like maybe the first thing that you kind of like train these people or help people to overcome to maybe start making some steps forward? I'm just trying to think of like that new person, that person who's kind of like new to all this. Maybe someone tripped over this video by accident and they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to that person?
Right. Yeah, I can meet everybody where they're at. I mean, if they can take it, I would be like, burn the boats, just quit your job. And I like in trust,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
working with me in trust, I know it would, whoop, or also by self-trust, but they need to know they have to thrive in that reality. But if I have to meet somebody else with like, there's more anxiety, there's more fear, there's more Akashic records thing that needs to be cleared out, I would just ask the question, like, what is the resistance? What are you still believing that the reality is giving you that you will lose or not receive by choosing reality X? Reality X would be the higher reality where you're not bounded to the job. So then you will find the things that are still like locking you into that. So I go through a series of questions, and sometimes they open up and there's like, yeah, but when I was 7 and this social anxiety and then that, and then we uncover sanskars, and then they get memories even from past lives. And I'm okay, we're going through that. And then I feel,
you must run into a ton of
everybody's
fear.
different.
You must run into a ton of fear though, because I'm sure I'm just thinking of all the things that people would say right off the bat, like, fear of losing security, what are people going to think of me?
What are
Those.
say? What are my
What's
friends
that?
gonna say? What are
Yeah,
my parents
yeah.
gonna say? My friends, like, well, how am I gonna make money? I'm gonna lose my house. How am I gonna eat? I'm gonna be in the street. I'm gonna lose all my friends. What about the girlfriends? I'm gonna die. But to me, it's
Yeah.
easy to transmit because I've been there. I've lost all my friends, all my money, all my the approval, all my possessions, and I've been in positions where I'm like, and then whoop, the field shifts, and I get support.
So there's an element of boldness. It's like it seems like it would be of an assistance to be somewhat bold and cultivate some bravery doing this to make some of those decisions and like I'm moving forward with this. Like I am going to step into this new life, you know, and it seems like bravery, you know,
Yeah.
that's something I feel like is a good thing to cultivate every now and then. But again, the other side of that would be someone being like, okay, well, I don't want to be foolish. I maybe I want to be brave and live in the life I dream of, my heart's desire, but I don't want to be foolish. You know,
Yeah.
what's the difference? What like where does foolishness play a part?
Versus being like too risky or taking calculated risk.
Right. I
Like
don't even
putting
know if
too much of your eggs in one basket versus like
I don't know if I believe in foolishness. Lately, I'm like, what if like foolishness isn't a thing? You there's just experience, you know. But
Yeah, you never fail. You just like fail forward. I mean, like if it doesn't work, then you learn that lesson and then move on. I mean, for the people that are gonna do it by themselves, like if they do it with me, like I have a lot of highly success rate and guaranteed of happiness. Like guaranteed happiness. But if they want to do it by themselves, I would suggest like testing something small and then like getting the
yeah,
confidence because that's how I did it until I could quantum jump. It's like I'm gonna let go of I don't know, my best friend in the world that I just, or this relationship that I thought, or it can be romantic, that it's like, wow. And I'm like, what am I going to do without it? It was my sense of security and safety and whatever. And then boom, I manage with that and I create something new. Oh, confidence. Okay. I'm going to let go of my job. Oh my God. I'm going to like instantly a friend invites me to live with them for 3 months. The friend didn't exist before I quitted my job. So I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as I quit my job, reality just sends me another opportunity. Okay, it's not what I wanted, but it gives me like a bridge. So it's
yep,
like the floor appears as you walk,
yeah,
and by just it's like we're like the instance of the monkeys. We're animals, so it's like we don't want to let go of one branch until we have the other one really hold on to. We're like, okay, now we can like
yeah,
so we can use the branch system until you can let go of the branch and just be like, okay, I can be the monkey free falling, and I know that I'm gonna be okay because there's no ground.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I do agree with that. Like, you know, I'm from the position of asker here, but I agree with what you're saying. What was I going to say? Oh, the Akashic Records thing. That is piquing my interest. Can you speak on
Well,
that at all?
well, I mean, I believe that we have many, many past lives, not just this one. Some are off planet, some are just here on Earth. Some beings are more ethereal and they're not used to like the density of planet Earth, so they have more lifetimes as just energy, just being. Because to me, I see the body as like half angel from the solar plexus up. That's our angelic energies, and from the solar plexus down is our animalistic tendencies. So it's the most fucked up game to choose to be human. It's like I'm gonna put it is like I'm gonna put my consciousness of an angel in an animal body, and then I'm gonna have desire, and I want to eat, and I have this shit, and then I fuck, and then I like, but I'm an angel, right? Too. So it's like, how can I mix my angelic nature with like the desire to eat, the desire to create, which is the desire for sex, the desire for love. Like to me, and when I say sex, I don't mean just physical intimacy. I mean sensual energy, creative energy, the desire to be and express. I see that in everything. So going a bit off topic. So Akashic records mean that we can tap into in which lifetimes we have just been pure energy and lifetimes we have had tough lessons. And some of those lessons in my book, when we don't learn them, then we reincarnate to play them out again. So we're like, why things are not working out? Why is it so hard in this lifetime to say yes to this and like quit my job or go all in boldness? Maybe in 5 lifetimes ago, like you did it and like you got killed, and then you have that memory like in your sanskar, and you're like, if I do this, I'm gonna like get killed. Or you did that and then you like you didn't succeed it, and you had a wife and kids, and then like your kids starved to death and your wife left you, and you're like your trauma, it's like in that blueprint of 10 lifetimes ago. So sometimes we have to go there instead of this one, and those ones takes like longer to see and clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, based upon just maybe what you think or guess, or maybe just don't even know, where do you think this progression is going? of like going through the lives and accumulating experience and understanding, is it building towards something?
Towards full liberation, towards not having to incarnate again, unless you want to as a liberated being just to teach.
Yeah. Well, I know I've heard you in some of your interviews, you showed some interest in kind of like the law of one. And I know in the law of one, it's kind of like all pointing towards a reemergence with the one or oneness, and then I guess it begins all over again. Maybe it's just a cycle that continues infinitely to play out over and over again. I don't know. But I definitely do find it fascinating. Do you study the law of one at all? You still
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that? Or yeah?
I read all the books, kind of like a
Yeah.
geek years ago. Yeah. To me, it's fascinating. And it makes me even more in quantum acceptance of this experience because it's like we want to reincarnate for the game. If
Yeah.
not, we wouldn't be here. We're here for the experience. So the desire for liberation, like, cool. It's like, cool. Okay, that's the end goal. But while we're here, may as well just play the human because that's why we're here. If not, we would be the angels or the energy. So if we just let go of the fear and the anxiety, then we can truly enjoy the human experience without like the paranoia. And that's the goal of being liberated while in the animal. We
Yeah.
would we would be the animal. Like who's
It
the
does.
animal?
It does feel like there's like an aspect of this existence that's about learning like learning in a lesson, even if that lesson is experience. But I would be lying if I didn't say that there's been times where I'm like, I don't want any more lessons, God. Just let me have a good time.
Dude, I've been there, like waking up like, fuck, still going. What now? Left, right, literally. And I'm like, okay, go right. And I'm gonna keep walking.
Yeah. So when you experience that, do you have any practices or rituals that you do kind of like on a regular basis to kind of like keep you grounded in your kind of spiritual connection or whatever you're doing? And if you do, maybe you could share some of them with us.
Well, at this moment, it's kind of like more effortless, but at the beginning, it was a lot of nervous system work because every time we tap into a new reality, our nerves that hold the trauma of this life or past lives has to dissolve so more light love can peer in. What's life love? Conviction, trust, knowingness, ability to receive higher wealth, higher happiness, higher like everything's going to be okay kind of thing. To embody that fully. But when we're like in the trenches of that, we just quit the job, we just got the divorce, we just left the girlfriend, we just invested all of our money in this deal, like whatever, risky things, quote unquote. Like, quote unquote, you're like, it's risky. I'm like, not that much. And then when you do that, your nervous system and your body is going to be like, because the light, the sanskars are going to, so it's a lot of just sitting with that, feeling into it, breathing, listening and with people or other mentors that are inspiring that already done it. So you gain the conviction of the teacher, like, okay, it's kind of like the monkey see, monkey do. If she can do it or he can do it, I do it too. That works. But then let the body adjust to that reality so it's smooth. Because if you do a quantum jump without the nervous system regulation, then that could be tough. Because then you're gonna be in that reality without the ability to execute. So then
Too
it's like,
much all at once. It's too much. Too much truth or too much something all at once is a system shock. Seems like.
yeah, I've been there. And I learned, so I've always been like, I want to go on the edge. It's been my gift and it was a hindrance. And I spent like 6 months in that like burning because I went too far. But I wanted that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I hear
mentioned
ya.
like mentors and stuff like that. Do you have any popular mentors or people that have kind of like guided you along the way? Like people you can recommend, or people that are like, did you have to go off somewhere by yourself to like learn under someone else? Any of these things, or
Oh, well, I had many peers and colleagues, but actual mentors, they're not incarnated. I would say David R. Hawkins is my number one mentor. I also love Nisargadatta Mahara, Ramana Maharshi. This is more like enlightenment teachings, the loved one. Let's see. I do love Neville Goddard, but I mix Neville Goddard's teachings with the self-realization teachers. And I love Sam Ovens, but that's business-wise, but that I love his approach in business.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good list.
What's that?
I said it's a good list.
Yeah. I was just thinking of kind of like being a mystic in the day and age that we live in. And how do you balance that out? How do you stay kind of in tune with like the type of person that you are when you're out engaging in kind of like the modern technological world that we're living in?
What if you took a wrong turn down some street and you were surrounded by chaos all of a sudden?
You accidentally stumbled into like the stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange. There's a bunch of people.
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
fun. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the point. You're like, put on my suit. I'm a stockbroker now. So it's about being on the world. Like it's just not for me. Like I live my hippie lifetime. It's not for just being just in the mountain or just being a hippie or just be the stockbroker. It's about being both. How can you be like a monk CEO? Why not? Like be one of those enlightened beings, but also play in the stock market or also go on to a party. And like I don't drink right now for this now month. I drank every day for like 2 months. Some addictions we keep. I was functioning. But you know what's funny? I know this is another topic. At that point, I wasn't drinking to escape anything. It was just like to feel the emptiness into a sensation because it was fun. And it was
Yeah. I don't really drink anymore, but every now and then I'll get the thought. I'll be like, maybe I'll go to the store and get something, and then I'm like, before I go do that, let me just think a little bit. No, I can see where that's going. Why would I do it? I'd just have a better time with my own faculties. But
well, I appreciate that. I actually appreciate just the down to earth honesty of that type of
there's
thing.
not enough of it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like sometimes it leads people astray when there's a lack of down to earth honesty.
Yeah. Some people think that, like, because they see gurus and stuff and they're elevated, usually sitting on a cushion or something like that.
But that's its own thing too, man. Sometimes I'm like, that looks cool too.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I think it can be intimidating sometimes with spiritual teachers. They see this, they have this vision of perfection in these people. Like they've got everything under wraps. Everything's good. And they're like, I'm never going to be able to compete with that. I was like, and they just, and then they guilt themselves, right? They're like, do you ever have any of that within the spirit, like in the spiritual community, like dealing with like, I should be away. Do you ever feel like
no,
pressure?
it happened to me too. No, what I mean, it happened to me as like I became that. I had a phase of the whole spiritual ego becoming that. But then I feel like I had to become that to then dissolve it, to be like, because how I see it now, it's like nobody's in a higher realm than anybody else. I feel like we're all equal. Everybody's, to me, is an enlightened being in their own craft. Like everybody has their own genius, and however they wish to express it, beautiful. So I see everybody as that. So it's not like, but I do have interactions where I become more like guru-like, but it's because the student is projecting me as that. So that's the hybrid that we create. It's like a co-creation. It's like, okay, let's play this game. You know,
you're existing in real time. You're a real human being. And so, of course, it's subject to change. But the one thing that I'm getting from this that I really like is the teaching by example type aspect that I'm picking up on. Like, look, I'm doing it this way. You know, there's a story I heard a while back where it was about a monk and his apprentice. And after years, the apprentice said, you know, it's been 3 years and you haven't taught me anything yet. And he said, what are you talking about? I showed you how to walk. I showed you how, you know, every day I showed you when you brought me tea. I said, thank you. And I've demonstrated what this is all about in my very behavior. And I loved that story so much because sometimes it is like, if you're the first one to be like, I'm not having a 9-to-5 hellish job anymore. I'm not doing it. Sometimes that can be an inspiration for people, you know. I like that aspect of things. Or I'm gonna go chase the life I want, or I'm gonna go just do it. I'm gonna change my disposition to pleasant and not contentious. It can be an example, I think.
I think there's also something to be said for like that. There's not just one way to be. I feel like maybe you could talk a little bit about this. As like, I find like there's so many paths that kind of can be taken, and I think. Sometimes, like, I've done this before where I've gotten in my head that, like even subconsciously, that there's one way to kind of, like, walk this spiritual path. And, like, you got to be like this and you got to follow these practices. And that's going to be the thing that, like, gets you to where you need to go. But it's way more nuanced than that, man. And it's, like, it's bumpy and hilly. And it's not always the same things that bring people to the same realizations or understandings, you know? So,
people are different.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it doesn't mean that the paths are going to be bumped. There's a trillion paths that lead to the same road. It's kind of cliche, home, move, like, but it's kind of
Yeah.
true too. Um, it's not the promise of future happiness. I don't think it exists. I think I can be a guide to anybody that can be like, we are all guides. I feel we're all students and we're all teachers. And if you're like 5% ahead in one area of life than the other person, you're a guide in that moment. But somebody can be 10% in another area, and that person is your guide. So I think like everybody has their unique style and way of expressing who they are. And the ones that, including myself, that wants to be like, oh no, I want to use it as a teacher. That's my profession. Then that's my style. But everybody's a teacher, even if they're not as a label. You know what I mean?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I've
yeah.
sometimes I'll throw that out. Sometimes I reserve the right to be a little paradoxical. Like I'm going to say something and I only mean it right now. I might not even mean it later. But one of the things I say is like be your own guru, if you need to, like
Right.
if that's what's appropriate for you. I also see that it's beautiful sometimes when the guru apprentice relationship, but I'm a fan of everybody kind of having the autonomy to seek things on their own and come to realizations on their own and be bold with their own selves. It's good that you're a guide though. Can we even get a glimpse into what you might do when a new client or a new person comes into your tutelage? Could you give us a glimpse of what that might look like, how a session would go, or how that relationship would start?
Yeah, so I love that you were like, do I say tutelage, student, client, like
Yeah, I don't know. I
person?
don't know.
Yes. Whoever approaches me for one of the mentorships is how I call it. Well, first we do one call to see if it's aligned to even work together because I need to see like devotion on what they're calling in because it's really strict. And it's just really fun. So that's the part. Like, hey, it's fun and it's strict. And then if it's a fuck yes after the first meeting and there's alignment, then I see what they want to do and they're willing to let go of what doesn't serve them anymore, and and they're happy to invest because it's also high ticket pricing because I feel like the people that invest the most, they take it more seriously and they make better changes. And then they instantly shift into a reality where they feel worthy of receiving that amount of money. So that's part of my course in abundance in the mentorships. And then we do depends. I have packages where I do like one session a week and we do Telegram prompts. So I channel direct transmissions tailored to where they're at and their soul, like 10, 15 questions or things that I say for them once a week before the call. And they answer those. That instantly creates the shift. In the call, it's just integration. So
That's hyper interesting. I wish I could do that sometimes.
I
yeah.
was I was curious about like maybe this is a bad question, but I don't know. You had mentioned something earlier, and I forgot the terms that you used. Like you were saying, you do something or you have something. Do you have any like supernatural gifts or like things that like people from Irrational say like she's got magical powers? Cities? Yeah. Like what are your
Oh,
gifts?
well, yeah, like, I mean, I don't like to claim specialness because like we all have the ability to, we all are superheroes, like we all have a special ability. So, but I manifest pretty quickly. So like anybody that's in my field and has like something that they want to co-create, when we work on that, it accelerates exponentially because what is manifestation? Manifestation is the power of focus. This is the science behind it. So it's not like magical powers. There's science. So when your mind's empty and you don't have sanskars, conditioning, programs, trauma, whatever you focus on, it's going to happen in reality because manifestation is, I'm like lollipop, lollipop, and then lollipop appears. And when they put me in their field with a desire, a new house, a new adventure, a new business, a new relationship, and I focus with them into that while cleaning up the debris of their conditioning, the thing appears faster because my emptiness gives more love light to the manifestation.
You know
So
what?
it's not
It
like,
instantly reminded me of a Bible verse that says, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, it'll happen," or something
Or
like
I'm
that.
there also, or I
Or
don't
I'm
know.
there also. It makes sense to me. The idea that it's like supercharged if you can get people co-manifesting together.
yeah, disclaimers. They have to have a good intention for themselves and the rest of the collective. If not, I'm
Yeah,
like, fuck no.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
matter how
No,
much money they offer me, like, fuck no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's a quote right on your YouTube, not your YouTube, your website, and it's just a verse. It says, all is vibration. You are the stillness that creates it. And I was wondering if you could. We hear these terms a lot. Like I'm not up to all the lingo in the spiritual community when it comes to vibrations and frequencies, and these terms get thrown a lot. And so I'm coming here from like Newville. What do you mean by What are people talking about when they're talking about vibrations?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Actually, that side was a gift. Like I didn't even wrote it. So like one of my students did it for me. So the language or everything is how I'm being perceived. So I'm just like, okay, but I love it. But yeah, I think what was meant through the field is that, so my natural state is more in this voice, and I can be still. I can just be like this and look at you guys' eyes, like in silence forever.
I might be
So that's
neurodivergent. I'm
stillness.
very comfortable with this.
Well, I mean, it's like still there doesn't need to be any movement because my mind's not saying things. I'm just like blank.
Right.
But then I can play and I can be like, so that's the vibration, like the little kid, the lollipop, the words. But that's the stillness. So it's always stillness. Like everything is just stillness in love, light, shape, form, and whatever we want to believe we are in the moment. So in the moment I'm an artist, I'm an artist. In the moment I'm sadness, in the moment I'm annoyed. So the more guilt, shame, annoyance, I don't know, self-hatred we have, all the tamas and rajas of samsara, then we cannot be stillness because we need to be vibration because those frequencies are so dense that our body needs to move. So we like feel comfortable. That's why people like cling, addiction, people pleasing, sex, porn. I need to do a 9 to 5 because I need to be focused on something. Because if I'm still, I need to like my rajas and tamas and karmic imprints and conditionings are gonna like destroy me. But when you can be still, because you're my oh my god. This is sorry. When your mind's empty, then you can just be like,
So there's what am I trying to say here? Is what you're trying to communicate
got
that
it.
if you see somebody that's erratic, that represents somebody that's essentially just dealing through some kind of internal chaos, versus if you can be still, then you're exemplifying inner stillness. Like, I feel like I missed something. Can you?
It seems like you're trying.
you can also,
It almost seems like you're trying to like manifest the current with like your body. Almost, I don't know. Like you're trying to. If I am away, I can make it that way around me. Right? I don't know.
I don't think like, I think it's just the ability to shut down your mind at will
Right.
or not.
Right.
But you can be an erratic, also emptied being that just wants to express itself as erraticness. Doesn't mean they're erratic or wrong. Nobody's right or wrong, or
Right.
they're less awake. There just can be awakeness expressing itself as erraticness. So,
Right.
but can you at will just stay in full on silence and no thought and not suffering and no clinging and no desire?
Well, the first time
But
I remember, like when I was introduced to the idea of meditation at all, those first times was like, it was a shock to see how not still I could be. You know, it's like, let me just sit down somewhere and try to be still. It's like, I didn't realize I can't do this. But then after some experience, you build up a tolerance to that sort of thing. And then when you have like a really long sit, like I remember at one point in my life, there's only really one point that stands out where I was meditated for days, you know, on and off for days. And I realized that everything that my identity was essentially just a amalgamation of characteristics that had essentially been bullied into manifesting. Like, you know, every time you went somewhere and somebody went, you look miserable, why don't you put a smile on your face? Or, you know, what? Every time somebody had suggested I be away, eventually it created a character, you know, and that's just like, it's like a costume, it's a character costume. But it was actually possible to sort of get some, you know, objective view of that. And then I think from that place, you can, from that place for me personally, I found that I could at least be still and then observe some internal processes, you know, like things that are judging myself, things that are judging the world around me, and just look at it while being still, maybe slowing my heart rate a little bit. For me, that's kind of how it went. I don't know if anybody else here had a similar situation or even knows what I'm talking about necessarily.
Yeah,
But
that's what I meant. Beautiful. It's like you're still, and then, but if you're
yeah,
able to sit with that and see your own self-judgments and the
yes,
critique and the fear and da, and you can, that's the vibration that's happening in the stillness. And then from that state of awareness, you can choose, what do I express? What do I say? What do I do? What do I create? And then the less self-judgments, fears, self-imposed limitations, sanskars, then the faster your creator ability, because you're not hijacking yourself, you're not self-sabotaging yourself. You're just doing, and doesn't mean it's going to be successful right away, but it's less and less painful, less and less suffering, less and less imagining all the worst case scenarios, and more just like just doing and learning by trial and error.
yeah, yes, yeah.
It's not
And the
special.
word that
It's
comes
just
to
like,
mind is authentic. Like, I love the idea
yeah,
of authentic. Honestly, I know some people probably get sick of it over time, like, authentic this, authentic that. But I'm still a big fan of it. I'm a fan of the idea of seeing grown adults being sincere and authentic and being like, if they're sad, you know, say, I'm a little sad, and not just a constant state of trying to be something that you believe the world thinks you should be all the time, at least anyway.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got a bunch of questions, but I don't know. We've
No,
been sort of flowing so
I
far.
got, yeah, I don't know why I thought about it. This is a little bit of a gear shift in a little bit of a different situation, because one of the things you said in one of your videos kind of resonated with me, and it was just, you were talking about, you got to be honest about what you actually really want. There's no point in putting on some fake persona about even just like material luxury. If you want those things, just be honest about it. And there is a part of me that's like, yeah, I want to, you know, I want abundance and and things and stuff like that. But there's also a side of me that, like, I kind of know there's also an empty side to it. And then I'm coming out of kind of like a Christian fundamentalist background. I'm reminded of scriptures where, like, the rich man came to Jesus and was like, you know, how do I inherit the kingdom? And Jesus is like, give everything you have away. And then the rich man goes away sad. And I was like, what do you think about, how do you feel about, like, materialism? Is there too much, too low? Like, is there a balance? Like, what do you think about that? And in terms of, like, kind of like the spirituality, prosperity message,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think it's about the intention. What am I going to use my abundance for? Like what I've come into with a lot of students that had to process guilt before it started happening, like better sales, more business success. It wasn't about worthiness. It was like, oh, if I receive this amount of money, I'm going to do bad with it. It was an unconscious voice that's, I'm going to become the greed man. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to control. And then the person blocks its own abundance because it believes it's going to do bad with it. But if you train yourself into, what's my intention when I accumulate all this wealth? What am I going to do with it? And then you start acting accordingly, even with what you have right now. If you assume you're already there, why have to start? Why do I become pure in my intention just when I'm the rich man? So it's about integrity. I mean, there's many layers, but that's what I'm going to touch upon.
Yes,
right
and paired with what you just said, I almost think, like, to that verse about Jesus saying that to the guy, it's almost like, well, if you can't even admit that you want to be rich in the first place, what good is a verse like that? You know what I mean? You're not even going to understand it. It's like, first acknowledge you want to be rich and then maybe try chewing on something like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like for some people, there's all these extra added layers of pretension to go through first. Like, some people can't admit that they actually like luxury, but they're driving around in luxury and working themselves to the bone for it. I'm like, admit that you like it.
Yeah.
Admit that you do want that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it probably comes from a place of where, like, their environment taught them that it's kind of like taboo to have too many things, right?
Yeah.
So like they feel guilty, like, I have too much. You know,
but I want to have it.
But I want to have it.
Yeah, it's a lot of beliefs of like, oh, I'm comfortable with people seeing me with money. I'm comfortable with my parents seeing me succeed. I mean, there's so many things. And what if the whole Jesus thing was a test? What if, like, he wanted him to be like, no, you know what? I'm not going to give up my possessions, but I'm still devoted to the truth and to Jesus and what that represents. Like,
Jesus
Again,
was
what's the truth?
such a complicated character. I love that. I love the idea because nobody said that before. That what if Jesus was just testing the guy? Do you really want to do this? You know, it's true.
You shouldn't. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, bro, I would
Yeah.
have kept them, you know. Like, you imagine that story. Like, well, thank you. You have made it to the kingdom with or without the possession.
Yes. That's brilliant. Yep.
So you said you had some more you wanted.
Well, I was just thinking, we've been kind of like going off the cuff, but I just wanted to remember between the two of us, we actually did write down questions, but we've covered a lot of the stuff that I have written down.
Yeah.
I don't know, we have gone over it already, but if you're comfortable, how would you explain enlightenment? This is a topic that comes up over and over and over again. We watch videos about enlightenment, and this subject, you know, it's been asked to us. Well, what is it? What is enlightenment? What the heck is it? How would you, in your words, how would you explain it?
Complete self-acceptance of yourself and the rest of yourself, because there's no self-critique. The little voice that self-abuses oneself disappears. So it's just, you lose the ability to resist.
Yeah.
Lose the ability to resist. To resist?
Your internal
resist.
bastard goes away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Your internal bastard goes away, and then like you just doesn't mean you're happy all the time. I mean, I like you can get sad, you can get angry, but it doesn't stick. Nothing sticks. It's like you become more of like a container that's emptier, and then it moves through you. Like anger moves through you, like sadness moves through you, like.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Then you're not thinking like, what did I said? What do they think? Am I doing wrong? Am I gonna fail? What are my parents are gonna think? Like, should I act this way? It's like you lose the ability to judge yourself
Yeah.
or others.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love the idea of pointing that out. Is the very, you know, graspable idea that it's not like you can't feel those things, but it doesn't stick. For some reason, it got me to thinking about some of my favorite teachers along the years. They actually are different depending on when you're watching them speak. It's like his character's different from time to time. Like they're more dynamic than a normal person. They're not so static like most people tend to be. It's like people find an identity and they stick with it. I've seen people that I really admire that are teachers that I'm like, the freaking voice is different this time. It's a different person. You know, and I don't know, maybe some clinicians would see an issue with that, but I think it's cool. I think it's if it's the right type of thing, I think it can be a sign of a dynamic person that's actually existing in the present moment and not existing in some idea of how they ought to be permanently. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, that's another definition. It's like you don't have a set personality.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, Nicky, I want to thank you so much
was
for
awesome.
for being on the show and sharing all this. This was great. I'm so glad you said yes to this. Maybe as kind of like a last thing, if you have any last message for our audience and you want to let them know like where they can find you and what you got going on, I'll leave the floor to you. Now's your time to let it out.
Yay! Well, everybody come to my lollipop party. Okay, no, seriously. The lollipop one. Trust the girl with the lollipop. She knows. Okay, so, well, right now I have one spot open for high-level mentorship, but what I'm looking for specifically is somebody that already has a business that is going on, that's successful, that has a heart-led intention towards humanity and wants to scale it and rocket fuel it. And just disclaimer, that one is 30,000 for 1 month. But I'm specifically looking for that key person that's like, okay, my vision's amazing, I'm making good money, but I want to like be more into my self-realization and the good intentions and whatever, but you can still keep the money. So that's what I'm calling in. And besides that one, if you just want to have an interaction and a talk, and I do 1 hour drop-ins, and you can film the form in my website. And if the price is like a bit higher for you, if you like really write me something that I feel like, okay, this person really wants to connect, I may do an exception because I like helping too. But the price is actually it's just to see like how committed you are and for you to take it seriously. So that's my disclaimer.
I hear you.
And yeah, that's
Awesome.
Yeah, and don't
you have
forget about, if you want to find her on her YouTube channel, there she's got some great content going on there too, folks. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. Great. Till next time.
it. Bye. Thank you.